Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Black Techies podcast produced by HBCU Digital Network. I'm your host, Herbert L. Seward. I am joined in our rotation in the first episode of July by Ms. Leslie Moore and my boy Dominic Bass, aka Blackity Blackmane. And needless to say, we've been gone for a minute. I've been doing spotlights on um, the book that you just saw the intro to, by the way, which is has already been released on Amazon and other platforms. First edition, I was a contributing author on the first edition, and that one was an Amazon bestseller, and this one looks to be even better than that. So when you get the opportunity, go check it out. Support the authors. You know, if you're familiar with HBCU bands, HBCU band culture, you're going to get your money's worth. So go check it out. Now, down to business.
Got your banners ready?
Yeah,
Oop.
yes,
I'm
yes,
actually going to be good today.
they're loaded. I wouldn't recommend that.
I'll be good today. I'm going to be good today.
So it was on your mind because this is going to be one of those episodes where there are some tech tie-ins to what we're going to be talking about, but there's a
For
lot
the
of stuff
culture.
that's happened. It's for the culture. There's a lot of stuff that's been happening since our last traditional podcast episode. And two of those things is the complete, you know, oh, well, let me go ahead and put this banner up. Hold tight. It's going to be a minute.
Well, while you're getting that together, turns out I was at Southern when Mr. Hankey was there. He's a good friend of mine. So good seeing him in the second book.
All right.
Oh
Now
boy.
that the banner's up, there's been a lot of fuckery that's been going on. There's been a lot of fuckery that's been going on in this country since the last time we've had this podcast. Two major points of contention. Uh, January 6th, hearings are starting to really peel back some layers of that onion that folks didn't really expect to see. And obviously, the 300 to 800-pound gorilla in the room is the repeal of Roe versus Wade. We're gonna
Mm.
save that one for for later on in the show because, like I said, there's a lot of fuckery afoot in both of them. Hence the banner. And for the folks that are out there that are normally here for our family friendly podcast, today's not gonna be kind of like that. So if you got small kids with weak constitutions, you may want
Ooh.
to just something to go play video games. Put a headphones on them or something. I don't
You're
know,
with your
but
babies today.
yeah, because we're going to be talking, about a great deal of fuckery today. Um, January 6th. I got some opinions, but I'm gonna let I'm gonna let Dom start off with this one. I got some opinions
Yeah.
because I think Dom is gonna be gone for a minute, and this is going to be really, really entertaining for the folks that are out there watching our podcast today. So, Dom, I'm gonna get your banner ready, and you go ahead and take it away.
Are we keeping it to just the SCOTUS decisions?
I'm giving you carte blanche, my friend.
Okay.
Carte blanche.
Well,
Oh boy.
it's been an interesting week. Had some interesting conversations. I don't. I find myself at a loss. I don't really know what we can't. Despair can't be the answer, right? It can't be fuck it all. That can't be the answer. Uh, but at the same time, it feels like. So here's the thing: they've been doing this, and they've been trying to do this for the last 50 freaking years. Uh, we're not gonna erase that work in a month, 2 months, not even a year, right? It's gonna take us the same level, maybe not the same time. It can't take 50 years. If it takes 50 years, we're done. Everything's over. Like it's a whole different world if it takes us 50 years to reverse this mess. But the same kind of diligence, the same kind of when they knock us down, we get back up energy that they've had since since Roe was passed, is the same energy we're going to have with putting our energy behind elected officials to make sure that they codify these things instead of letting it shouldn't even be up to it shouldn't be up to a judge. It shouldn't be up, and they kicked it back to the states. Okay, so let's hold the states accountable, right? And I wish I had a magic wand. I wish that sensible people. I wish we could split this country. I wish it wouldn't the United States of America. Honestly, I wish it was half. I give them one half and let them squalor, and let us live our progressive dreams on the other side. And I don't care which side of it you give us. We have to get a coast. So give us the Pacific coast. Give us the Atlantic coast. Give us a coast. We'll figure it out. But it's disheartening that such a small minority of the people in this country get to determine the autonomy and the choices that people are made. Already so far, women's lives are affected, and when women's lives are affected, as much as guys don't want to realize it, but our lives are affected, right? When the women in your lives are forced to carry babies that they don't want, and in some cases didn't even do the thing. A lot of victim blaming, or a lot of self-righteous, super Christian, super religious, I'm trying to think of a right word. This is still semi-family show. A lot of semi-religious people um people will say something to the effect of um hashtag Cassidy Hutchinson, will say something to the effect of, like, she shouldn't have laid down. She shouldn't have opened her legs. She should have kept the legs closed. Meanwhile, nobody's keeping their legs closed. This is a country full of people that's fucking. So I don't understand why. And also we need to be very, very clear, very real with this. Nobody that's wealthy whose child gets pregnant and does not want that baby. I don't care what your beliefs are. When it's your baby, you're gonna find a way. It's illegal. Call a doctor, tell him we'll give him 15,000 cash. He'll come to the house and do it. Whatever it is, it's gonna get done. The people who are affected by this are the people who all she could do was take half a Thursday off and get down to that Planned Parenthood and get this done. That's all she could do. She can't take a whole day off and drive to Chicago and drive back. She can't do it. She ain't even got a car. She catch the bus. You can't catch the bus to Chicago. The Greyhound takes 6 days to get anywhere. So it's I still am struggling with the words. I'm never gonna have an abortion because fortunately or unfortunately, I don't have the kids. I don't have the organs. That's not a thing I have to do, right? So I'm sure Leslie woke up that day, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm sure you went to sleep one day and then you woke up the next day and it was like, oh, we're closer to Handmaid's Tale than we were yesterday. And it's just that's just a thing that is true now. We're just closer to some bullshit Lovecraftian alternate dystopian future that sounds like some shit that would be in a book that now is reality. And then Justice Clarence Uncle Ruckus Thomas said, we coming for all of the rulings except for Loving, by the way, because him and his white wife, absolutely, we ain't coming for Loving. Now Loving, we understand Loving. Come on now, love knows nothing except for it's a man and a woman. It is a man and a woman. All right, no man, no woman. But man and a woman, doesn't matter the color. He said they coming for Obergefell. They coming for, I don't remember the names of the other ones, but they coming for contraception. They coming for what's happening in your bedroom, and they coming for same-sex marriage. They're coming for it, and we just gotta until Joe Biden does what he needs to do. We just gonna have to just eat that. We just have to sit on our thumbs and just until he either gonna load the court with 5 more liberal justices, which the only way that's going to happen is if we get rid of the filibuster, which the filibuster in and of itself, people, I hate that we act like these things are, look, the framers were ancient. They were the smartest whites at the time. They were ancient racist whites. They owned people and they wrote the words "we the people" and alienable rights and human bill of rights. And then they smacked their slave around and said, "Go get the car, boy." Like these people are not like it's not. And then also we've changed it already. We changed that's what an amendment is. The Constitution has been changed several times. So I hate that we act like we can't change precedents. They've added justices to the court before. Need to add it again. I'm rambling. I'm gonna let you rock, Leslie. It's so many. There's so many things. There's so many. We have to have such a wide focus before to like solve all of the problems that we have, and it's hard. It starts with voting. It starts with getting our people to realize not that. And I listen, we black people ain't saviors, right? We only 13% of this country, but we do need to get up off our butt because where some of us are is some of the most red states, and where we are, if we would get together and put ourselves together as a union, like we have powerful voting blocks if we could engage those voting blocks. So we got to do something, and it can't just be saying, "Oh well, everything's bad." We got to do something. So that's it.
Yeah, you know, I'm going to before I let Leslie kind of roll. Um, and I just want to just want to make people aware that are watching the podcast that there are some definite tech tie-ins to the two topics that we're talking about tonight. Um, outside of our vent sessions that we're about to have and still having in regards to just the gravity of what's happened in the past couple of weeks. Um, I, like I said, my thoughts, man, honestly, and like I said, I'll save my thoughts on Roe versus Wade until the second part of half of the show. Um, Voting matters. That's all I can really say. And what we saw with these hearings as they're kind of rolling to their conclusion, and the tea is being spilled, so to speak. Um, it doesn't just say a lot about folks that um, knew the type of animal. Um, Jose Mourinho is on our show. Check this out. Psych
Hey,
with the frog. Looks like a joke. It looks like somebody that's trolling, but that's cool.
what it do?
Yeah.
What up,
Um,
Jose?
yeah. Back at you. Um, but yeah, like I was saying, um, it says a lot about where we still are and how far we still have to go in terms of recognizing who's right next to us, who's next door, who we work with, who we go get groceries from. I mean, you really think about it from the time that this dude, Mango Mussolini, started running for office, his campaign. Folks knew what this guy was about. You know, Folks knew that he caught a federal case for housing discrimination. Folks knew that he was smack dab in the middle of the Central Park Five case and ran a media campaign that eventually got five men, innocent men, convicted and locked up. People knew this. People knew this and still thought that he was the best solution, best candidate out there, and for one party. And I listened to a lot of folks talking about, oh, you should have voted for Hillary and this, that, and the third. And I get, the angst. Um, we all have flawed candidates, but nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, should have slept on the worst case scenario. This was straight Star Trek Kobayashi Maru type worst case scenario. Oh, dude, you knew what he was going to do. You knew he was a grifter. You knew all of those things, and people still voted this guy in the office.
And gonna vote him again in 2024.
And that is a very sad commentary as to where we are collectively, as a country. And I mean, there's a lot of other underlying issues that kind of, buttress that point. Whether we're talking about stuff about, critical race theory, or talking about um, who deserves access to, safety net, safety net policies or laws in their state. And, I want people to really understand what these hearings mean. You know, you got a dude that was caught, you know, I mean, eyewitness accounts that didn't have a problem removing metal detectors from the Capitol to let folks in with weapons, AR-15s, assault rifles, pistols, knives, you name it, bear spray, which we saw. You know, I mean, I want folks to really think about that and to put that in perspective. If that was any other demographic people that was marching on the Capitol, and I say this as a native Washingtonian, there's no way in hell, and I mean, no way in hell that you would see a group of black folk, a group of any other demographic marching on the Capitol. They'd lose their minds, and a lot of people would be dead. And that says a lot. It says a lot about where we are, and it says a lot about how bad things have gotten in terms of our discourse and understanding each other, and finding common ground in terms of our collective walks of life. you know I mean, these hearings you know are laid out bare, and the folks that are testifying aren't liberal, run of the mill liberal progressive folks. These are folks that were in Trump's camp, part of his administration. Folks that, for lack of a better term, we probably would have been, man, y'all stupid a couple of months ago. But somehow they got the wake up call and saw it for what it is. And it's bittersweet because, this isn't really an I told you so moment. This is a moment, you know, um, that's really, it's sad. It's sad and it's frustrating because, black folks said, we told you so. Black folks from New York that know this dude said, we told you so.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, and like I said, I'm gonna leave Roe versus Wade until later on in the show, and I'm gonna let Leslie offer her thoughts and some of the tech tie-ins that we have for what we've been seeing with these hearings in January the 6th. Um, Leslie, hey, take it away, man.
Banner me. Gonna need a banner.
It's coming.
Get, get, let's,
Here comes
let's
the
go
banner.
ahead and get the banner because
There you go.
it's going. Let me.
Here goes the banner.
All right,
Banner's
cool,
up.
awesome. So go back to January 6th, normal day, simple part of the democratic process, been going on for years and years and years. Nothing new. Certify the votes, move on. And then we see the tiki torch hell break loose. Just, you know what? We're not going to accept due process. This is the time we're not going to accept due process. Weird it didn't happen when Obama was elected. Coincidence. Just throwing that out. And it wasn't the audacity that they said they were going to do it. It wasn't even the audacity that they were able to get inside. It wasn't even the audacity of how much damage they caused to offices, property, feet up on desk, just acting a
Fecal matter.
plain white trash ass in our
There are
nation's
even
Capitol building.
there are even
The
buffalo horns. There are even buffalo horns in the in
there's
the in the
buffalo
Capitol building, bro.
horns. There's a shaman. You had a shaman. You had somebody at their feet on their desk. You had somebody wear their work badge in them. Fuck it, here we is. We in this bitch. What behooved me was they shared it on social media every step of the way. So you didn't have to worry about mainstream media telling you what's going on. They showing you yourselves. They ratting themselves out. They giving themselves away talking about, I'm in here. I got my feet on this. I stole her bail. I took this flagpole. Look at these documents that no one's supposed to see. I'm going to take pictures of them. I'm going to live stream myself doing this. And then thought they were going to get back on planes to go home. They thought
And
they were
most of
going
them
to
did.
just, yes, the first group who left immediately after got out. They left. The ones who stuck around and, a curfew's kicked in. That curfew ain't for me. It's never for me. It's for them. It's never for us though. We don't have to obey the law. We walked straight past the officer that held the door open for us. Why we gotta obey y'all now? But it was the ones who decided to stay for the party and then had to look people in the eye like, I'm on the plane about to fly home, and now I'm gonna need you to come up off this plane according to this social media post on Facebook and Instagram saying you was where yesterday. I'm gonna need you to come up off this plane. You got police to talk to. Excuse me, I saw that Twitter post you made. Please step off the side. I need to holler at you quick. It's the
Yeah,
fact that they decided that they were gonna show their side on social media and thought they were gonna be justified.
yeah,
And
and I
then
think
it's so crazy.
yeah,
It's
and I think you touched on something really really big there. And that's the first tech tie-in that we have in regards to this particular event. Social media. Social media has been the conduit for a lot of what we've seen over the past 3 to 4 to 5 years,
yeah.
and
They don't have to
it's
worry about the lamestream media putting out lies like, oh, this happened, that happened. No, you get first person events and you get first person commentary of what they feel has been taken from them, and all they're doing is just basically just old school snitching on yourself.
yeah,
That's all
and
you
I
did.
mean yeah, and I
You
mean
just
I hear you, and I think the really um crazy thing about this, from a tech perspective, is that I mean you gotta look at some of these folks that have been elected to office, um, and you got to think to yourself whether or not, damn, um, dude, don't you know this is not the 19th or the 20th century anymore? This is the 21st. You have certain, things at your disposal that make the transmission of information instantaneous, and it's something that you just can't really quantify. You can't quantify, and um you can't really you know you you can't really underestimate how important the technology has been in terms of telling this story. you know and it's
Yeah, had
something
this
that
happened 100 years ago, it would have been a very different.
oh, it none of the good
We
stuff would
wouldn't
have
even
got
have known
out.
about it. We wouldn't even
yeah
have known about it.
and right on cue. um right on cue, our boy who's been on CP time, Roberto Joseph, pops
I had
into
to
the
work real
speed.
quick. You know what I'm saying? Had to work real quick.
Come on, plug.
Yeah,
Come
Hey,
on,
yeah, man.
hey,
plug.
hey, shameless plug.
Right?
Yeah.
Hey,
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 hey.
real quick, we're going to take a really quick ad break, and then we're going to come back and continue this conversation about January the 6th. And Roberto's going to get his chance to have his banner up and him to go. Stay tuned.
Yeah, baby, you know what time it is. Now let's get it started. Are you kidding me? Unreal!
While our HBCUs are mostly known for academic rigor, community, they also know how to turn up.
Does he have it? Yes, he does!
All right, and we're back on the Black Techies podcast. Before I go any further, I'm gonna go ahead and put Roberto's banner up right now before we even get started. There we go.
Oh Lord.
So, Roberto, we're talking about well, you already know what the elephant in the room is, January the 6th, and we're going to be talking about Roe versus Wade a little bit later on, and some of the tech and some of the tech tie-ins for both. But I'm gonna let you go, man. I let Dom, get his tirade chops in earlier, with his banner, and everybody's had to go around, so it's your turn.
Ooh, man. Where do I even begin? First of all, it's pretty obvious. I'm not a woman, and I don't feel like I'm qualified to speak about what should and shouldn't happen in terms of what goes on with them and the doctor. I damn sure know that I'm much more qualified to tell my daughter and my wife and my sister what to do with their bodies in close proximity to them than some 70,000-year-old white man somewhere in Alabama who doesn't know them at all, or their choices or their religious beliefs or anything like that. And I'm trying to find the most tactful way to say, mind your damn business, but there is no other way. Like, as a kid who grew up, my dad was the secretary in our church. My mom was in the choir. Me and my brothers were all altar boys. Was super Catholic. I'm just kind of Catholic now. And I firmly believe that I don't want the Pope to be the president. I don't want the president to be the Pope. And I mean, like, there's a reason why some things should be separated. And this is one of those things. Like, you can absolutely believe in what you believe in, and I don't think anyone is a monster if they believe for or against. And while we're on that for or against thing, it's brilliant marketing, even more than this guy right here. Like, this is probably the most marketed person in modern day times. But outside of Lego Batman over here, pro-life is such a shitty term, just because it makes you assume, just like pro-black would have somebody assume that, okay,
the opposite of
so
that.
You're pro-black, so you must be anti, which doesn't mean one thing or the other. So, like, obviously, if you're pro-Sith, then you're anti-Jedi, because you can't really. Those are
I would argue
forces.
that too, sir.
You know what I'm saying? Although there are great Jedi, we're not going to get into that. It's not Star Wars time. But it's brilliant marketing on their part for them to say, I'm pro-life. What are you? Because then that puts you in a position where you have to say, well, I'm pro-choice, and I really do think it's someone's choice, but I also believe in the sanctity of life. I just think that mothers' lives matter in that conversation too, because if it's medically necessary for you to have an abortion or something like that, then yeah, you should be able to do it. And I don't think in any term that me as a man, I'm qualified to tell anybody, even my wife, if for whatever reason I can go in there and be like, hey, you need to do this with your body. She can be like, okay, and then not do it. And that's the end of that story. I can't come in there, hit her upside the head with a Bible and be like, well, God told you that you're supposed to listen to me. And then she's still not going to do it. I can't go then run to the court and be like, hey, court, my wife ain't listening to me, so you need to do something about it. In the court, like, yeah, you know what? The Bible does say they got to be obedient, so we're going to make that a law.
Soon.
All the wives that don't listen to husbands, they go into jail, which this feels like the same energy to me. Like, if you don't feel like you can tell somebody what to do yourself, even when you're not qualified to say this stuff, you just go run and make it a law, and now all of a sudden everybody got to listen. I think it's, again, whether or not you're for or against or whatever, not my argument. I think if you are for the government telling women and women only what to do with their bodies, you're an idiot. That's just how I feel. And no, there's not a think piece or a clever tete-a-tete that's going to change my mind on that. I don't like the government telling me to do my money, let alone with my daughter or my wife or my mom or my sister. So that's just where I stand on it. And again, it has nothing to do with God, has nothing to do with religion. This has everything to do with control. And kudos to Dick's Sporting Goods and Nike and all them people that are saying, hey, well, if you want to get an abortion, we'll pay for it, and we'll pay for you to move and go to another town and do it and all that stuff. It shouldn't be necessary. But then also then means you have to be paying for that healthcare from that place, which healthcare is another scam I don't even want to talk about. It's a lot. And it's a lot that I can't even really formulate a intelligent and peaceful thought about it to just say that's some stupid shit. And it's whatever good reason you have for it. A good reason doesn't exist when the government is telling you what you can and can't do with your own, and which if you don't think gay marriage should be legal, cool. If you don't like gay people for whatever reason, fine. That's your stupid decision. But that's also not something that can be legislated because you don't like it. Like, I don't like paying taxes. I don't like having to, like, all these ancient people being in Congress, and because of all these jerry-rigging and redlining and all this crap, that they're going to get another seat, or, you know, the oil company is keeping me from getting all the rebates I want on my electric car. Everything is money. And in the moment, like my friend Eric would always say, the moment that money is taken out of politics, that's the only time you can be honest. And this is another thing where they're going to browbeat us with some other crap about religion and morality and all this other. But I mean, there's thousands of kids in foster care in every city, in every state. There's thousands more homeless kids in every city, in every state. And I don't see them lifting a finger for them. I don't see, like, St. Jude is the only place that gives kids free healthcare or free treatment. And that's only because other people donate to it to keep it afloat, not because the government is funding it privately because they care about kids and they're pro-life. I think it's bullshit.
I feel you, man. And I think now that we've kind of had our say about at least me, I've had my say about January the 6th, and I've let
I didn't say
folks
anything about
kinda,
January 6th.
yeah, we're coming back.
Yeah,
To you. We're coming back
Yeah.
to you, Dom.
January 6th.
Because
Boy.
you're closing the show. You two are closing the show out on that. But I'm going
January.
to.
Wow.
But I'm going to say this in regards to Roe versus Wade, and let me go ahead and get the banner up.
Oh, I know y'all gonna need the banner for me because I got a lot
Yeah.
to say.
Well,
And
should have more than
yeah,
everybody here to say times 10.
exactly, and
Well,
that's exactly
with
the
that,
reason why.
I hesitate to say that because it is her, it's her body, right? But it's
Yeah.
okay if she
Well,
doesn't have the most. It's okay if you're like still figuring out a processing, or it's
Mhm.
okay if as a woman,
well,
it's okay even if you agree, even if you're like anti-abortion or whatever, like Roberto was saying. uh the idea that like, I hate the idea that it's pro-life versus pro-choice, because that inherently means that if I'm not pro-life, that I'm like pro-death or something. I'm not
Yeah.
pro
You're the anti-life
abortion.
equation.
Yeah, exactly.
well,
I'm not pro-abortion. I'm like pro let people do what they go do, and I'm definitely not pro let this woman die because she's having an ectopic pregnancy, but because
yeah.
Hmm.
Jesus told me I got to let you die, it's his will. That's crazy.
Hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
like I said, I'm gonna let Leslie bring this topic home, so I'm going first, and I'm gonna be real with the folks that are watching and everybody else. This goes beyond Roe versus Wade. This goes far beyond it. This is you know, Roe versus Wade is, them overturning that statute has been 50 years in the making. And it's more so um it's more so the first step in an assault and rolling back a lot of things, in my opinion.
Hmm.
I mean, just the verbiage that's been used in terms of, debating the constitutionality of what Roe versus Wade represents, and for those of you guys that are watching, I'm gonna put this in perspective. What the Supreme Court essentially did was kick the can back to the states to make legislation and to make legislative policy decisions regarding abortion in their own states. And this isn't the first time this has been done with really hot social civil rights touch button type issues in this country's history. Um, and to be quite honest with you, it's something that's as American as apple pie to this point.
Mm-hmm.
You look at some of the things that have been left to the states to decide, and it's some of the worst policies and most draconian legislation that we've ever had in the history of this country. Whether we're talking about the Black Codes, Jim Crow, um, you can look in any state house or legislative body in the South and look on the books and see just insane, archaic, just brutal laws that were left to the states to decide. And that's kind of what is, you know, whether, no matter what side of the debate that you're on, and the I'm going to remove the religious element from this, just to put this in perspective for folks that may not be able to remove themselves from it. Choice is choice.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And once you start rolling back those things, once you take Pandora's box, and open the lid and start rolling back those things that were codified into law in terms of rights, you can't dictate where that's going to stop, particularly with societal norms the way they are. We still have a lot of questions that we have to answer as a country. We can barely even talk about history on the same page. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? You got folks out there that have a problem putting slavery in curriculum and textbooks.
Mm-hmm.
But
Because
these
of
same
marketing
folks,
again.
as of marketing, but these same folks at the state
Mm-hmm.
level are legislating access or denial of access to services or denial of access, denial of autonomy to people's own bodies. It's a very scary precedent. And, it's not something that you can just morally wave a magic wand and poof, it goes away. There are very real on the ground, real world consequences to the rollback of those permissions. And I mean, and I'll, before I turn this over to Leslie, I'll say this for the folks that are on the pro life side that are like, well, there are still people out there that help people through pregnancies and X, Y, and Z. And, I volunteer at a pregnancy center, or it's not about that. It's not about your individual, um, quest to be on the right side of a moral issue in your eyes. You've already done the damage. You've already done the damage in the sense that you've taken the option of protection away from millions of people. And we're not talking about the worst case scenarios of, the 11-year-old that has some trash ass family member that knocks her up and her innocence is ruined.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about the ectopic pregnancy, although I think Leslie will get into a lot of that stuff. We're talking about the idea of choice in general. It's not the first time that that's been rolled back. And the Supreme Court essentially said, F it. Let's
Mm-hmm.
kick it to the states. Like, their job isn't to be the final check in that, system of checks and balances. And that's a scary proposition going forward. It really is. Leslie, I'm going to put your banner up right now because I already know you
Go
got.
right on ahead, because I got a lot. I got a lot. And I'm a preface this by saying I also was raised Catholic, and we believe
Gang,
all
gang.
babies live. Gang, gang. But this is more than just religion. This is more than political base. It all goes back to, no matter how you look at it, the biggest minority in this country has been and always will be a woman.
Mhm.
Always. We're only what? Running up on 50 years where a woman can actually get a bank account without a maid, where we can actually start doing things on our own without having a male's input. And control of our body is literally control of who we are as a gender. This is nothing against transgender female. I have friends who are transgender females, and I understand body autonomy is only part of the problem. But the biggest
Mhm.
problem is right now, even with allies, Roe versus Wade has been a thorn in people's side since the days of the coat hanger abortion. We
Mhm.
got to get rid of this kid before. Look, just say it. There's a saying in the South: "He madder than a Klansman with a mixed grandbaby," and that stands true today. Like these, what's happening is you got to think. Yeah, these senators are in their 60s and 70s, but how many kids would they really have had if it
Mm,
wasn't for Roe versus Wade?
mm.
Mhm.
And I'm
We would have
talking
got it done
politicians
anyway.
across the board. It was going to happen. Rich families, it's going to happen. It's about keeping women in a woman's place, one way at a time. Now, if this is God's will that if you're pregnant, you have that baby, well, unfortunately, God's will upon a man, when they hit a certain age and a certain part of the anatomy decides, you know what, I'm out, that's also God's will. Just saying.
Mhm.
You got to think the original use of Viagra was never meant to be to help a man keep his performance up. It was literally a blood pressure pill with a very interesting side effect. Can't
Mhm.
have high blood pressure if all the blood goes somewhere else.
Mhm.
But again, God, if we're gonna keep God's will, let's just say Cialis shouldn't exist, Viagra shouldn't exist, these little cornerstone pills shouldn't exist because it's God's will. If you can't rise to the occasion, well, God's will. But when it comes to these girls who are molested, are sexually assaulted, sexually abused, and have to keep a constant reminder of their attack because they are not allowed, they are forced to keep that memory in mind. Now you're dealing into mental health and trauma. This child will not be loved. It's going to be a constant reminder of an abuse, of an attack. Like Roberto said, y'all are pro life. The moment that baby leaves my uterus, do you care? Where's the protesters outside my door? Yeah, that baby's here. Let's get it ready. Let's get it where it needs to be. Here's health care. Here's a great education. Here's a great life set up for you. No, the baby gets here. Well, that's mom's problem. Kids fall through the crack in in the system consistently.
Yeah,
They're being
and I
abused. They're being abused. They're being left behind. They're being mistreated and potentially raped and adding more babies to the system. You're not helping by adding to the problem. And that's all this is going to do is add to the problem. We're going to go back to the days of the coat hanger abortion, the back alley abortion. This is coming back. It's going to happen. If these women don't want these kids, they're not going to have these kids, even if they got to injure themselves to do it. We're in such an age right now where it's it's a shame that we're so technology advanced to the point where an abortion is no longer a 2 or 3 hour actual surgery. It's a procedure that can be done on a local anesthetic where it's safe and monitored to keep, if you want to have more children, you have that opportunity. But that doesn't matter because, You need to have these babies. This is where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be barefoot and pregnant and taking care of these kids. That's what you're for. That's someone else's will. But when is it okay for us to be like, let a woman, birth control is next. You've already gotten rid of a way you're pregnant now. The baby is now a viable life. That baby's here. The next thing they're gonna stop is birth control. Which realistically, if y'all were really not wanting to, the easiest thing for anybody to do if they don't want kids, for men it'd be just get a vasectomy. Because at least it's reversible. We get our tubes tied, that puts our health at risk. We have to be on hormones for the rest of our lives. We get birth control. Some people don't really work well with birth control, but they're going to get rid of that too because, again, I thought this country was about the separation of church and state.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and
It's blurred.
yeah, and just to kind of add to that, there's a very big um there's a very big tech tie-in to this topic, and
Oh, I,
that tech tie-in is has a
again,
lot to do with has a lot to do
it's
with
an
your medical information and privacy.
yeah, it's another attack on women. One of the biggest breaches that's going on right now is with women who use. I personally use an app to keep track of my menstrual cycle because again, I have my son. My son is 14. I do not want another child personally. So I have an app that helps me keep track so I don't forget what's going on with me. But yet again, it's that data is being used in freaking police warrants. What does that have to what's going on with me every 28 days got to do with the police knocking on my door? Absolutely nothing. But it's tracking information, it's location, it's my birthday, it's damn near my blood type. But
Yeah,
again,
and
it doesn't matter.
and you have certain states that are quite literally crafting um, punitive legislation along those lines. I mean, I look at Missouri, and I got to be real. You know, this is no diss to any black folk that are from St. Louis. I got a lot of friends, that are from the state. But what the hell is wrong with y'all down there? What is up?
This Midwest is
I
wild.
mean, y'all are running neck and neck with Florida and Alabama in terms of, and Mississippi in terms of, yo, what the fuck? I mean, it's quite literally something that, I mean, you have parts of the country that are like the complete antithesis of what we've been talking about in terms of choice, access. And this, like I said earlier, this goes far beyond the reaches of the actual Roe versus Wade, decision. The immediate crisis, yes, is the decision, and a lot of a ton of folks are going to be really immediately affected. But the legal precedent that sets for everything else that's been either very ambiguous in the in terms of the law, and in terms of having to have a seismic civil rights or social rights event to move the needle and to get the law in place. It says a lot. It says a lot about how far of a step we've taken back, and the fact that there are going to be issues with privacy. There are going to be issues with, you know, electronic access to medical information, how that data is being used to track who leaves states and who doesn't to go and get these services. And this is not necessarily just about abortion. This is about women's services that go along with the process. You know what I'm saying? It's really um it's a very scary precedent. And folks joke around about, you know, eh, the South turned into Gilead and Handmaid's Tale and all this other stuff. But bruh, you look at what the court is what the courts have been doing, particularly in the South and in the Midwest, in terms of rolling you know, these advances back. It's it takes it, it's really sobering to watch, and it's something that is going to get a lot worse before it gets better.
It's going to be hard on the younger generation of women right now. Y'all daughters are coming into a generation where one, it's already hard enough with social media trying to keep beauty standards or keep so-called moral standards. Now they're constantly under attack for what they do. Not only attacked on how they cover their bodies, now they're about to be attacked on how their bodies work. And that has got to be stressful for young girls right now. I'm about to be 40 years old, and it's stressful to me. It's hard. And I'm raising a teenage boy. So I have to also instill in him that your classmates, your female classmates, women are not looking for allies in name. We're looking for allies in action. You can't be that guy. It's more of well, we're here for you if you need us. But the moment y'all trying to give us a shoulder to cry on, y'all trying to give us something else to ride on too. That don't help. That's not helping nobody. And it's more than just saying, it's more than getting these older people out of office, because guess what? Their younger cohorts, the people that's interning under them and campaigning with them, are on the same mindset. So it's more than just getting rid of who's there. You got to clean the slate completely. That means who they are, the people that work with them, the younger people that are being that they're mentoring. It's all got to go. We got to start city level election wise, because a lot of people, they get into these city elections and they're like, oh well, now that I made it to the city, I'm about to jump up straight to the next level. I'm not going to stay where I can do the most work, since everything's being kicked back to the state. They're trying to get, now that we're in, I'm just going to go straight to the top. And you get to the top and you find out you can't make these changes you promised, so everybody's going to see you're a liar, because you got to start at the bottom. You want change, you start at the city level. They want to kick it to the state level and say, hey, you do what you want with your state. Change your state representatives. Change that first. And I can almost guarantee you Congress will fall apart by itself.
And there you have it, in terms of the path forward, in terms of actually combating some of the stuff that's going to be coming down the pike. And like I said earlier in the show, who you vote for, where you vote, when you vote, your participation matters. And it's going to matter even more at the municipal, state level of government, because even more so now that the federal, the Supreme Court has kind of, again, opened up the floodgates. Who you vote for, who you pay attention to, and, in your community, in your state, in your city, is going to have a direct correlation to the legislation that you're going to see on a daily basis, the services that you're going to have access to on a daily basis. So if you didn't feel the urge to participate in the voting process now locally, you got incentive now. And like I said, from a technology standpoint, we've already seen companies like Amazon and Google and, a lot of Silicon Valley take a stance on making sure that their employees, if they have to travel to, to have those services, to have access to those services, that they're covered. And in turn, you're starting to see states take punitive action against those companies, which is another really, really disturbing precedent.
It's all about the dollar.
Yep. And I think it's something that, again, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. But we have one more ad break to go, and then we're going to finish this show off. Stay tuned.
Yeah, baby, you know what time it is. Now let's get it started. Are you kidding me?
while our HBCUs are mostly known for academic rigor, community, they also know how to turn up.
Does he have it? Yes, he does! And that might be the knockout punch.
All right, and we're back, and we are going to have some final thoughts. Um, and like I said, we're going to try to end this very, very morbid and, quite frankly, uh, just triggering show on a positive note because the brother got barbecue to eat. Um, I mean, what are some of your final thoughts going forward, man? You know, besides the fact that you've got some really Looney Tune people that are still in Congress, and you've got your boy Cheeto that's still out there at large and still a factor in, despite what's been going on with the hearings on the sixth. What are some of
Still
y'all
the leader of
thoughts?
the Republican Party.
Mhm.
My final thoughts are simple. If people are tired of me and waking up and being angry, stop sitting around and let it happen. You want change? You can't just be like, I'm gonna get up, I'm mad it happened, so I'm gonna protest after the fact. I'm tired of having protests after the fact. You want to change it. Your election day, find out your state's local election cycles. Find out your city's local election cycles. Don't worry about every 2 years that's congressional and presidential. Change your city. Change your town. Change your parish or county. Change your state. Because once those change happen, you start seeing it trickle to the upper levels. Because once they start seeing their cohorts at the local level start falling apart and change is coming from the bottom up, because everything is federally kicked back, the states is going to matter a lot more. And people have not cared about these elections, not since people haven't started caring since Obama was elected, and everybody's like, how can we make sure this never happens again? That's when people started giving a damn about your local elections.
Mhm.
We should have been doing this. It should have been a thing. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I feel you. And I think, I mean, that sums it up. I
Yeah.
really, I really think that, with as frustrating and as infuriating as what we've seen in the last couple of weeks has been, you know, there's still a window to kind of bring this back from the brink, but that involves folks actually be taking an active part in, changing that course of action, and it happens locally. It happens at the grassroots level, and the role that technology is going to play in that is going to be huge. Social media is going to be huge. Mobile communication and mobile media and content creation is going to be huge. you know all of those things tie into, the picture that we see of these events playing out. I mean, it's not just, you rolling out of bed in the morning and watch and turn it on CNN or or MSNBC, or, heaven forbid, Fox. you know
Mhm.
um you've got more people that at the ground level are going to be able to rewrite that narrative, and technology is at the forefront of that. So again, this has been a really dope episode, you guys. For folks that have been listening to our podcast, um, we now have a Discord. Look for the Black Techies on Discord. Our little Afro emblem with the pick in it, with the glasses and the headphones. We out there. So if you see our Discord, join us. We have a Patreon. We'll be advertising on the Discord as well as on our Facebook and Twitter on our Facebook and Twitter platforms. Please join us. We got some really really big point things planned going down the pike in terms of insider content. Being a part of the podcast. We might even be recruiting another member of the podcast before the end of the year. So all of those things are on the table. Join the Patreon, join the Discord group so you can be on the inside of it. Join the Black Techies Collective on Facebook. That's also a nice little haven oasis for folks that support the podcast. And again, before we close the show, the folks that are part of the HBCU Experience Band Edition, book, the second edition of this book, it's already getting rave reviews and it's out on Amazon already. Support that book. It's HBCU through and through. If you're familiar with HBCU bands and HBCU band culture, it is the epitome of those experiences. Check it out. Support the authors. Shout out to Christy Walker, Dr. Ashley Little, Dr. Christy Walker, Dr. Ashley Little, who are heading up the project. And until the next time, hail Wakanda.
Wakanda
Wakanda.
forever.